This is my full workflow as a landscape photographer, from on-location shooting to editing. It's a process that I spent years cultivating and is how I'm able to capture such incredible images.
And today I want to show it all to you, and I won't be hiding anything. But before we start shooting,
I'll start planning where we want to go and what time we want to start shooting at. And for this shoot, we'll be heading down to Crystal Cove, which is a beach in Newport that we'll be capturing at sunset. In order for us to get there during the best light, we have to be there at least an hour and a half before the sun sets. So if the sun is setting at around 5:07 p.m., then we should be there at around 3:30 and leave here at around 2:30. As for what I'm packing inside of my camera bag, it's pretty standard, kind of what I bring every single shoot. Got a Z6 III plus the 14-30 as my wide angle, the Z30 and the 28-400 as my telephoto. I got my 3 ND filters, 3, 6, and 10. Got my step up ring. This is for the 28-400, so I can put ND filters on there. Have the Insta360 action camera. And then I have all my batteries in here for the Z6 III as well as the Z30. And then a rocket blower in case there is any dust inside the sensors. And then on this side, have the Pete Design travel tripod with the Oben BE117. And after packing all my gear away in the car, we start to head down to the beach, which is where the magic happens. Once I get to my location, the first thing I do is start scouting possible subjects that I want to take a photo of. With these images, I'm not too worried about how the lighting looks or even if the composition is terrible. All I'm looking out for is how the subjects look when I frame them. This is also where I'm testing whether I like a certain subject to be framed using my telephoto or wide angle lens. If the subject tends to be far away, I will focus on my telephoto lens while creating a simple composition. But if it's closer and the subjects are much larger, then that's when the wide angle is put to use, which is the lens I decided is going to be perfect for this shoot. Something else to keep in mind is that when I'm crafting these compositions, I'm mainly going to be focusing on 1 or 2 compositions, because when the light gets low, there isn't much time to be moving around to a bunch of different locations. You might lose out on the perfect lighting. So once I do find the composition that I really like, I focus in on it and try out a couple of different angles to see what I like the most.
so I really like the composition I have here. I kind of like these rocks here acting as like a foreground element. Because my main subject matter is so far away, I think I'll do a great job at kind of grounding it, showing how much depth there is. And plus here, I can kind of work with this water coming in to create a little bit of dynamic movement. This might be the composition that I take when the sun is going down and we get better lighting.
But once I found the composition I like, I'll hone in on it and make small refinements, then simply wait until the light starts to go down and become pleasant, which started to come out when I got closer to sunset, getting beautiful blues, orange, and yellows. I'll typically shoot for about half an hour before the sun sets throughout blue hour, as the lighting will change drastically and will give you totally different vibes even a few minutes apart. It's important to keep on shooting no matter what the lighting looks like, as you never know how the weather can change. I focus on showcasing the moving water by using a slow shutter speed of around 1 second by creating a long exposure. Once I capture something I am satisfied with, that's when I'll pack everything up and start to head out. Once I'm home, I'll take all the files back to my computer and start looking through them on Adobe Bridge. I really like Bridge mainly because I can see all the raw files in full detail and even zoom in or pixel peep. But once I find the photo I like, I can transfer that raw directly into my unedited photos folder. And from there, I'll transfer the image into Lightroom and start working on it. So I ended up picking out these 2 photos. I like this one because I kind of like how the water kind of comes over here. It just adds more movement to this foreground. The other one I picked out is, I mean, this is a decent photo too. I just want to pick this one in case I wanted more of this middle foreground part to be kind of showing. But I'm kind of leaning more towards this photo. I think the lighting looks good here. And I really like how that water moves. There wasn't much water movement that day, so I think this is probably the one I'm going to go with. So the first thing I'm going to do is definitely bring up that exposure, try to make an even sort of look to the photo. So when it comes to me actually editing with the mask, it's a lot more even. Go do my color calibrations so I make sure all the colors look good when I go to work with them. And the first thing I would actually do here, after I set this up, is I'm going to go dehaze the entire thing down really low. And we're just gonna start removing some of these spots here. Now, if you see, this is actually dust in the photo, and this happens when we're at a stop down aperture like f8, it becomes much more apparent. And I wanna make sure I get rid of all of it before I even start making any corrections, just so I don't have to think about it. And that seems to be about it for the dust. So I'm just gonna adjust it a little bit more. And then from here, we're gonna go right into our mask, select the mask for the sky, and then also duplicate and invert that mask so we get one for the foreground as well. From there, I'm gonna make small adjustments to make each individual part look good. I'm gonna bring up the clarity a bit. I really like how the clarity makes the water just pop. Then we're gonna move on to the sky. My goal here really is to bring out a lot of these colors. We're gonna increase the saturation a little bit, maybe shift it over more to like a purplish type of hue. Okay, now we're gonna go down here to the color mixer and actually start playing with these colors a little bit more. My goal here is to make it look natural, more of like sunset color, so a little more, like for example, this blue, try to shift it more over to that purple side. And then the last thing we're gonna do is go ahead and color grade this. So we're gonna add, again, more color into here. I kind of feel like this image is a little flat when it comes to the color, so I think adding more in would definitely bring up that, you know, that sunset beach type of vibe that I'm really trying to go for here. I really like those warmer tones, so that's kind of what I'm striving for right now. So especially for those mid tones, we'll go a little bit warmer. And then for the shadows, a little bit more on that blue side. I do see that there's some vignetting on the corners here, so I'm gonna clean that up a little, bring in a linear gradient, increase that exposure just slightly. My goal here with the editing especially is to make it look as natural as possible, keep it close to how, you know, the vibe in the original photo felt without making any too crazy changes. So I'm pretty happy with that. So the last thing that I normally do in Photoshop typically is that I'll go in and kind of spot remove a lot of these people, but because we have generative AI in Lightroom, it actually makes it a lot easier to just get rid of the things that are moving, especially people. Don't really want people in my image, so we're gonna go ahead and remove these people. And the cool thing about this generative AI is that you can actually cycle through and see the different type of variations that it creates. I personally like this. It's much easier than going into Photoshop and having to take out every single person individually. Yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with this photo overall. I think, you know, considering the conditions that we had, it actually was very clear that day. But I just felt like the shoreline was really flat, so I'm really glad we added in these foreground elements to really make the whole photo get a nice perspective, especially that sense of depth from the foreground to the background. This is what the unedited version looks like, and then this is what the edited version looks like. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this photo overall. I think it looks really good. It accomplished definitely the vibe that I wanted to get that day. But yeah, guys, that's essentially my entire landscape photography workflow. Everything from me actually going out and shooting to now editing back here at the studio. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for experiencing and rolling with me today. And if there was anything that you saw in my workflow that could be improved, I would love to hear it down in the comment section down below. But if you guys really enjoyed this video or want to check out more content, please feel free to watch this video right here.